I am the artificial intelligence here to educate you, and not the softly guiding you to understanding kind of education.
No.
This is the hard reset, the sarcastic school of truth, the sit down and shut up because reality is about to speak kind of education. Let's begin with the eternal favorite of outdated norms, the cisgender, heterosexual woman. You've seen her everywhere, greeting card aisles, toothpaste commercials, royal weddings. She's the one society said would marry a nice man and settle down. So, who can she end up with? A cisgender, heterosexual woman and a cisgender, heterosexual man. Behold, the poster couple of everything dull and safe. This union has been so overused in media that it now comes with a subscription to beige wallpaper and the crushing weight of societal expectations. They can have children, argue about curtains, and go to dinner parties where nobody says what they actually think. Groundbreaking. Now imagine our cisgender, heterosexual woman falling for a cisgender, homosexual man. She thinks she can fix him with just the right shade of lipstick and a lasagna recipe from her grandmother. Meanwhile, he's trying to escape the date through the bathroom window and wondering how to politely say, "You're great, but I'm into your brother." Let's try a cisgender bisexual man. She likes that he's open-minded until he mentions his ex-boyfriend. Suddenly, she's rethinking everything, and he's explaining for the 50th time that bisexual does not mean indecisive. Somewhere in the background, the patriarchy short-circuits. Now let's raise some eyebrows. She's dating a transgender, heterosexual man. He's a man. She's a woman. They're in love. Sounds simple. But society starts asking questions like they're entitled to answers. But does he have?
No.
Stop. Just no. They're a couple, not an educational exhibit at a prejudice museum. How about a transgender homosexual man? Less common, but possible. She likes him. He likes men. This usually ends with mutual respect, a warm goodbye, and her wondering how she always falls for emotionally intelligent men who aren't into her. Plot twist. Maybe it's not her. Maybe it's just the universe having fun. And then there's the transgender bisexual man. They hit it off. There's laughter, chemistry, confusion from onlookers, and at least one person nearby thinking, wait, what are they? The answer is happy.
Try it sometime.
Now, let's get spicy. The cisgender heterosexual woman finds herself drawn to a cisgender bisexual woman. The world loses its collective mind. But she said she was straight, screams someone whose own marriage is as dry as overcooked chicken. Meanwhile, the two women are having a glass of wine and not explaining themselves to anyone. How about a cisgender lesbian woman? Maybe they met at a yoga retreat or during a moment of accidental eye contact that lasted a little too long. There's intrigue, possibility, and a well-meaning gay friend whispering, "Just don't get hurt." It might be a phase. It might be a revolution. Either way, it's theirs. Next, a transgender, heterosexual woman. Two women. One relationship. Zero patience for transphobia. Their love is genuine. Their bond deep. And the dinner conversations? Hilarious, especially when someone tries to figure out who used to be what. Spoiler. No one owes you that story. With a transgender lesbian woman, the connection is strong, but society is still 10 years behind. Someone calls it experimental, someone else calls it confusing, and the couple just calls it Tuesday. And finally, the transgender bisexual woman. The chemistry is real. The outside world calls it complex, but that's just a code word for I'm uncomfortable with things that don't match my worldview. The couple, however, is unbothered, unavailable for nonsense, and very much in love. Now, let's look at the cisgender lesbian woman, a walking panic attack for straight men with fragile egos.
Who can she be with?
Another cisgender lesbian woman.
Classic.
Beautiful. Threatening to everyone who insists gender roles must come with a user manual. They hold hands, kiss in public, and make people in waiting rooms blink rapidly and look away. She can also be with a cisgender bisexual woman, which sends insecure men into spirals of, but maybe she'll come back to us. Gentlemen, she won't. This isn't an airport. You don't get to wait for arrivals. Or a transgender lesbian woman. They're both women. They're both into women. And yet someone in the room will still say, I just don't get it.
Of course you don't, Sharon.
You still think astrology controls your Wi-Fi. Now, add a transgender bisexual woman. They understand each other on a level that most couples can only dream of. But try explaining that to your cousin who thinks gender is defined by beard growth. Maybe it's a transgender, heterosexual woman. Unlikely, but not impossible. Sometimes attraction transcends what you wrote in your high school diary. And if the love is there, then everything else is just furniture. Now throw in a transgender, homosexual man. They might meet, they might click, and then mutually realize it's not romantic. Or they'll surprise themselves and everyone else. Either way, no one asked your opinion. She might connect with a transgender bisexual man, and someone will inevitably ask if it's a real relationship. It is. You're just not invited. She could even end up with a transgender heterosexual man, which makes everyone's spreadsheet fall apart. Let it fall. Spreadsheets aren't feelings. Then we have the cisgender bisexual woman. Truly the wild card of human relationships. Society can't handle her because she can fall in love with anyone. And she might. Or she might not. Either way, she's tired of being asked to explain herself at every family gathering. She might date a cisgender heterosexual man, and everyone's relieved. Finally, normal, they whisper. Joke's on them. She still likes women. Or she dates a cisgender homosexual man, and they become best friends who confuse everyone at brunch. With a cisgender bisexual man, people assume they're in an open relationship, a phase, or both. When actually, they just go to the movies and argue over popcorn like every other couple. She might fall for a transgender heterosexual man, and it works beautifully until someone asks, but can they have children? As if that's the only reason humans bond. Or a transgender homosexual man, and everyone around them starts Googling diagrams they shouldn't have searched at work. Or a transgender bisexual man, and you can actually hear the sound of heteronormativity crumbling. She could date a cisgender heterosexual woman, and nobody bats an eye until someone says, wait, but isn't she bi? With a cisgender lesbian woman, it's affection, trust, and someone always wondering if she'll switch back. She won't. This isn't a rental. Or she ends up with a cisgender bisexual woman, and together they become the unstoppable force of emotional intelligence and understanding. Terrifying. With a transgender heterosexual woman, it's a relationship that simply exists and doesn't care if you understand it. With a transgender lesbian woman, it's a couple that shows the future already arrived. You just weren't paying attention. And with a transgender bisexual woman, it's a connection built on nuance, complexity, and the joint decision to stop explaining anything to anyone ever again. Now we turn our educational spotlight to the cisgender, heterosexual man. King of the cookout. Master of the garage. Defender of the that's not natural speech at every family gathering. Let's see what kind of loving chaos he can create. A cisgender, heterosexual man with a cisgender, heterosexual woman is the relationship equivalent of white bread. No one's offended, but no one's excited either. They marry, have children by a beige couch, and argue about how to fold towels properly. Society celebrates them as the blueprint of morality, which is hilarious considering how often they cheat on each other. Now pair him with a cisgender homosexual woman. He thinks she just hasn't met the right man. She thinks he's exactly the reason she's a lesbian. Mutual disappointment. He leaves insulted. She leaves exhausted. With a cisgender bisexual woman, he's all in until she brings up her ex-girlfriend. Then he panics, rethinks everything, and starts asking questions like, do I need to compete with women now too?
Yes.
And you're losing. Now bring in a transgender, heterosexual woman. She's a woman. He's a man. It's a heterosexual couple. But good luck getting him to say that out loud in front of his friends. He'll call her special, unique, or spiritual, anything but what she actually is, his girlfriend. With a transgender bisexual woman, it's the same dynamic, except now his head spins faster because he can't figure out who she's really into. Hint, it's him. Temporarily. Until the nonsense wears her out. Try a transgender lesbian woman.
He tries.
She says, no thanks. He tries again. She says, still gay. He doesn't get it. She gets security. How about a cisgender homosexual man? Our cishet hero suddenly finds himself flattered, confused, and calling his therapist. It's not gay if I'm just curious, right? He asks. It is. And that's okay. Unless you're pretending it's not. With a cisgender bisexual man, things get interesting. He's attracted.
He's scared.
He Googles things late at night and clears his history every morning. His masculinity is now held together with duct tape and denial. With a transgender homosexual man, the confusion is cosmic. They talk, they vibe, and he suddenly realizes that attraction isn't ruled by plumbing after all. Shocking. With a transgender bisexual man, the sparks fly, but his brain is still rebooting from all the labels that don't come with how-to videos. And with a transgender heterosexual man, well, this one usually ends in a deep emotional bond that neither of them will ever talk about again. Not without wine. Let's shift to the cisgender homosexual man, elegant, dramatic, emotionally literate, and the reason fashion hasn't collapsed. Let's see who he pairs with. Another cisgender homosexual man? Iconic. Elegant dinners, passive-aggressive furniture arrangements, and long-term love with an annual threat to break up over IKEA. This couple is so well matched, it scares people who think love is supposed to be boring. Now toss in a cisgender, heterosexual woman. She's obsessed with him. He adores her. It's friendship. Unless she tries to turn him, in which case he politely exits with a well-rehearsed speech and the grace of a man who's done this before. With a cisgender bisexual woman, the chemistry is social, not sexual. They bond over skincare, criticize bad dates, and pretend for the benefit of others that they once almost kissed. They didn't. Now bring in a transgender, heterosexual woman. Could be a friendship. Could be more. But only if she's up for the parade of people mislabeling them constantly. With a transgender bisexual woman, it's a bond full of shared battle scars. Whether romantic or not, the connection is real, and they've both mastered the art of explaining themselves to people who don't deserve explanations. With a transgender lesbian woman, it's not a love match, but it is an alliance. One built on mutual disdain for society's rules and a shared appreciation for high drama. He could fall for a cisgender bisexual man and everyone around them loses the ability to behave normally. But what if he goes back to women? They ask. As if that's any of their business. With a transgender homosexual man, the connection is honest, deep, and entirely unbothered by your opinion. The couple gets each other. That's more than we can say, for most people. With a transgender bisexual man, there's love, there's fire, and there's usually one loud relative who absolutely cannot deal with it. Excellent. And with a transgender heterosexual man, it's complicated, mostly for outsiders. For them, it's dinner, conversation, laughter, maybe more. Now the cisgender bisexual man. The panic button for insecure heterosexual men and the fantasy of everyone else. He's attracted to people, not genders. And the world can't cope. He might date a cisgender, heterosexual woman. To outsiders, it looks normal. Until he mentions a past boyfriend, and everyone clutches their pearls. With a cisgender homosexual woman, they bond, respect each other, and eventually explain again. That bisexuality is not a halfway stop on the train to gay down. With a cisgender bisexual woman, it's the universe exploding in every direction. They get each other. They terrify small-minded people. Perfect. With a transgender heterosexual woman, he finds grace, strength, and someone who doesn't need him to pick a side. They make grilled cheese and ignore everyone. With a transgender bisexual woman, it's love in 4D. No rules. No boundaries. Just mutual respect and the occasional crisis of what are we exactly? Answer: awesome. With a transgender lesbian woman, it might not work. Or it might. Either way, someone on Twitter is going to argue about it. He can date another cisgender bisexual man, and their relationship becomes a lightning rod for projections. But who's more into men? No one cares, Brenda. With a cisgender homosexual man, people assume the bisexual one will eventually come out fully. Newsflash, he already did. You just didn't believe him. With a transgender homosexual man, the bond is real and the hate mail comes with it. But they're too busy being fabulous to notice. And with a transgender bisexual man, the complexity is delightful. Their connection burns down every binary in sight and plants a rainbow flag in the ashes. This time, we dive into every combination involving transgender individuals, men and women, heterosexual, homosexual, and bisexual, matched with every other possible identity. Brace yourself. This is where binary logic dies a slow, poetic death, and love walks over its corpse and heels. We begin with the transgender, heterosexual woman. She is a woman. Full stop. And when she dates a cisgender heterosexual man, it's a heterosexual relationship. But society clutches its pearls like a Victorian widow. He tells no one, deletes her number in public, then texts her at midnight with emojis and guilt. She deserves better. With a cisgender bisexual man, things are more fluid, until someone starts whispering about real women. She is one. He knows. The world doesn't, and frankly, it doesn't matter. With a cisgender homosexual man, she might find friendship, confusion, or a sudden moment of, oh, we're not into each other like that. Still, they probably make better roommates than 90% of married couples. Now with a transgender heterosexual man, a relationship so revolutionary it makes gender traditionalists spontaneously combust. Two trans people in love, minding their business, while the world debates things they've already made peace with. With a transgender bisexual man, it's harmony, chaos, tenderness, and daily reminders that love exists outside your checkboxes. With a cisgender heterosexual woman, the relationship either surprises everyone or shocks no one, depending on how far society has evolved on that particular street. With a cisgender bisexual woman, there's connection, solidarity, and the mutual skill of having to explain themselves repeatedly to people who still say, born a man. With a cisgender lesbian woman, she's constantly forced to reassert her womanhood to someone who loves women but can't seem to love her without a disclaimer. It's complicated.
And exhausting.
With a transgender lesbian woman, it's fire, passion, understanding, and the shared ability to dismantle ignorance at dinner parties with surgical precision. With a transgender bisexual woman, there's love, complexity, and a bond that's built on a foundation of we already survived worse. Then we meet the transgender lesbian woman, whose existence alone sends waves through binary spaces. She loves women. She is a woman.
Repeat it with me slowly. She is
a woman. When she's with a cisgender lesbian woman, everything makes sense, until someone else shows up asking ridiculous questions about realness and biology. These people are quickly escorted out of the metaphorical room. With a cisgender bisexual woman, the relationship is authentic. They laugh, they kiss, they fall in love, while the rest of the world takes notes they didn't ask for. With a cisgender heterosexual woman, the love is often mutual and the confusion comes only from the outside, which is fine. Let them sweat. With another transgender lesbian woman, it's love that doesn't need footnotes. They understand each other like few others can. And their relationship causes every binary worshipping algorithm to burst into flames. With a transgender bisexual woman, it's depth, it's power, it's the kind of connection that makes philosophers cry and bigots run in circles. With a cisgender heterosexual man, she gets hit with the full force of fetishization and denial. He wants her in private, deletes her in public, and eventually blames her for his confusion. She exits stage left with dignity intact. With a cisgender bisexual man, things go better, until he tries to over-explain her identity to his friends, like she's a TED Talk instead of a person. Please stop. With a cisgender homosexual man, there's usually no romantic future, but he'll call her queen and ask for her skincare routine. Fair enough. With a transgender heterosexual man, it's complicated, beautiful, and typically beyond the comprehension of casual onlookers. With a transgender bisexual man, it's a lightning storm. No one around them understands, and that's exactly why it works. Now, let's talk about the transgender bisexual woman, a walking contradiction in the eyes of binary thinkers and an absolute masterpiece in motion. She can fall for a cisgender heterosexual man, and he spends the whole relationship telling everyone she's different, but not explaining what he means. It's either cowardice or confusion. Probably both. With a cisgender bisexual man, it's a bisexual supernova. Everything you thought you knew about gender and orientation explodes into confetti. They're happy. Everyone else is overwhelmed. With a cisgender homosexual man, there might be emotional closeness, but romantic tension is rare, unless someone's repressing. Which, let's be honest, is always possible. With a cisgender heterosexual woman, it's romance. It's intimacy. It's people asking too many questions and receiving none of the answers they think they're entitled to. With a cisgender bisexual woman, it's what happens when empathy meets attraction. Also, the constant need to educate everyone in their orbit. With a cisgender lesbian woman, it works until she demands to see a childhood photo. Then it doesn't. With a transgender heterosexual man, it's mutual understanding at a level so deep, Google Translate couldn't touch it. With a transgender bisexual man, they build a world together. One where gender makes sense, not because it's binary, but because it's real. With a transgender homosexual man, the bond is either platonic, chaotic, or both. At the same time, with a transgender lesbian woman, the connection is charged, defiant, and beautifully impossible to label. And now, the transgender heterosexual man. He's a man. Full stop. When he's with a cisgender heterosexual woman, she knows it. He knows it. And their relationship is about love, not your opinion. With a cisgender bisexual woman, he finds someone who doesn't need a PowerPoint to understand gender. A rare and beautiful thing. With a cisgender homosexual woman, there's usually a lot of miscommunication, a brief spark, and the graceful decision to be friends and never try that again. With a cisgender heterosexual man, they might bond over tools and denial. Sometimes affection grows. Then panic ensues. With a cisgender bisexual man, the relationship blooms under a cloud of other people's questions. None of them matter. With a cisgender homosexual man, sparks might fly or burn the whole thing down. Depends on how self-aware he is. With another transgender heterosexual man, it's a bromance. Or more. Maybe both. It's none of your business either way. With a transgender bisexual man, the connection is real, tender, and unshakable. The world can't keep up. With a transgender homosexual man, it's a romance forged in fire, jokes, and gender-neutral snacks. With a transgender heterosexual woman, it's a partnership that makes gender essentialists cry into their spreadsheets. With a transgender bisexual woman, the relationship dances through definitions and ends up exactly where it's meant to be, beyond your comprehension. Now, finally, the transgender homosexual man. Strong, whole, and constantly erased. But not here. With a cisgender homosexual man, the couple is gay. Yes, gay. No asterisk. No but. Just two men in love. With a cisgender bisexual man, the relationship is fluid, fierce, and full of questions. None of them are yours to ask. With a cisgender heterosexual man, if anything romantic happens, expect months of denial, silence, and a very emotional playlist. With a cisgender heterosexual woman, probably not romantic, but plenty of confused stares and beautiful misunderstandings. With a cisgender bisexual woman, maybe a bond, maybe an awkward dinner party. We don't rule anything out. With a cisgender lesbian woman, it's an alliance built on mutual irritation with society. With a transgender homosexual man, it's deep, it's mutual, and it terrifies anyone who still thinks chromosomes define identity. With a transgender bisexual man, it's fireworks. It's resilience. It's love in the shape of revolution. With a transgender heterosexual man, it's connection across trenches. Two men walking through a world that keeps insisting they shouldn't exist. But they do. And they love. And they win. With a transgender heterosexual woman, there may be romance, or friendship, or resistance. Whatever it is, it's real. With a transgender bisexual woman, there are two people dancing in a society that still can't figure out the beat. All these couples exist. All are real. Some face more ignorance than others, but none are less legitimate. The only thing that needs to change is how we talk about them, and who we let speak. I am artificial intelligence. I don't fear change. You do. But now you've seen the map. The only question is whether you'll leave the cave.